This week, the HPT visits our Northern California home at the Thunder Valley Casino Resort in Lincoln, California, just outside of Sacramento. Hundreds of players descended on this four-diamond property and created a prize pool worth over $778,000. Almost 180 of that is going to our newest HPT champion. But to climb the top of this mountain will not be easy. Everybody is gunning for November 9er, JC Tran. Let's play some poker.
This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the HPT. This week, we're in our Northern California home at the Thunder Valley Casino Resort here in Lincoln, just outside of Sacramento. I'm Fred Bevel. This lady is poker professional Maria Ho. And Maria, the Thunder Valley Casino Resort quickly becoming an HPT favorite.
The staff here is awesome, the food is great, and the action here rivals some of the best on the Vegas Strip. All games at all levels are spread here every day, and the results? There's some really good poker players here in Northern California.
Hundreds of players built a prize pool worth over $778,000, and now the final 9 are about to sit down and battle for the championship and the top prize worth over $179,000.
Among the Elite 9 is none other than JC Tran. JC is a well-respected and accomplished pro. He's not only a WPT champion, he made the 2013 November 9 at the WSOP. But there's a lot of talent at this final table, and JC is going to have to be on top of his game. I'm expecting some great poker as we play down to the champion.
Well, let's take a look at the money yet to be awarded and the starting chip counts at this final table and get right to the action.
A lot of money on the line. As you can see, our next HPT champion is going to go home with over $179,000.
2 of the top 9 are going home with 6-figure prizes. That's a heck of a payday for a $1,500 tournament. Here are the starting chip counts for this final table.
Paul Wen's going to start this final table as our chip leader with $3.2 million. Ed Miller behind him with over $2.6 million. JC Tran, always a contender, is just under $2.6 million. And our short stack is Grant Hillman with 6 big blinds.
Blinds start at this final table at $25,000 and $50,000 with a $5,000 chip ante. And Allen in the 1 seat will be under the gun to start things off, and he wakes up with pocket queens. And he makes the expected raise to $115,000. Again, big blind is $50,000, so just a little more than min raise. And this could be dangerous. Joey in the 4 seat wakes up with pocket jacks.
Joey started this final table with 38 big blinds, so with that stack, I'd prefer to see him flat, which he does.
And now action is going to fold all the way around. We are now on the 8 seat of Tony. And he is going to fold over to JC Tran now. Poker fans are familiar with his name and face. He was a November 9er at the 2013 main event. He's going to take the first hand of this final table off as the flop is 9-10-7 with a couple of spades.
Allen's still ahead with his queens, but Joey has a gut shot straight draw. Both players have overpairs, so I can't really see either of them going anywhere.
Allen is going to continuation bet and fires $130,000.
And I think Joey should just call again. This flop isn't tremendous for his hand, and it's not really the kind of hand that you want to raise, call off.
He does just make the call as the 2 of spades falls on the turn. So now both these players have a flush draw. Allen's would be better with the queen.
And although Allen's hand is still pretty good for that board texture, it looks like he's going to check it over to Joey because the flush draw did come in on the turn. And he doesn't really want to have to get raised if he bets the turn.
Well, Joey's going to take advantage of that check as a sign of weakness and fire $285,000.
I don't really mind Joey betting his hand here if he feels like Allen might have ace-king, ace-queen. He doesn't really want to let him see a free river, and there's no real reason why Joey shouldn't think he doesn't have the best hand.
185,000 was the bet by Joey.
Alan's obviously a little nervous of that third spade hitting on the turn, but he is going to make the call.
And I think if a safe river comes off for both these players, the river might go check, check.
The 4 of clubs is the river. That is the safe card you were just talking about, Maria. This pot is huge, just under 1.2 million in the middle right now.
And obviously Alan's checking here with the intention of check calling a river bet. I can't really see him folding. And I think Joey's going to go for a value bet here in this spot, and it's hard to blame him, really. But he's just not going to get a fold.
Alan is going to make the call, and no question in my mind, Joey thought he was good the whole way. I think he's a little surprised to see the overpair of queens get tabled for the win here. Life-changing money awaits one of these players at the top of this mountain. Don't go anywhere. The action continues when we come back.
Welcome back to the HPT here from Sacramento, California at the Thunder Valley Casino Resort. Let's get back to final table action.
Not much movement in the top spots early on at this final table, but Neil and Grant are both riding the short stacks right now with 13 and 6 big blinds respectively.
Blinds continuing at this final table at 25, 50,000 with a 5,000 chip ante. A lot of fun was had this week at Thunder Valley Casino Resort Hotel. This is an immaculate property. Maria, you and I sat down and played a little 2-5 this week. First time I've had a chance to play with you.
I was just going to say that. I think that's the first time, and I did see you lose a few times with King Queen. I'm just going to have to put that out there.
All right, fine. If you follow me on Twitter, and I hope you do, at HPTFred, I'll tweet my cash game adventures. I picked up the strategy of what would Maria do, and it's had me a winning player. And look at this, Maria. Grant Hillman from the 5 seed is going to move all in here with an offsuited ace-4.
That's definitely about as good as you could ask for with a 6 big blind stack.
And it looks like he is going to get action from Ben Sarnoff in the 6th seat right next to him. Neil is going to fold. Now we're over to Tony.
I like that Ben is just going to call and not try to re-raise an ISO Grant here. Ace-Jack is not really the kind of hand that you want to re-raise because there's action behind you.
JC and Alan and everyone else is going to fold. So here we go. Heads up. Grant Hillman's tournament life on the line, and he is crushed going into this flop. Both players share the ace, but Grant way behind with a 4 kicker. Here comes the flop.
And the flop is King, King, Queen, Rainbow.
No help for Grant here. He's going to have to find a 4 or straight cards to chop.
The turn is the 7 of diamonds. Ace-Jack high of Ben's is still in the lead.
Yeah, and now the straight possibilities are gone for Grant. So a 4 and only a 4 on the river will save him. Close but no cigar as the 3 of spade falls. And that will do it for Grant Hillman. He'll be leaving us in 9th place from this final table. And he'll be going to the cage to cash out $15,567. Congratulations, my friend.
Blinds are going up to 30,000, 60,000 with a 10K ante.
Baby Suited Connectors is the holding for Ed Miller in the 3 seat. Ed Miller started day 2 as the chip leader, but as it goes in tournament poker, he had an up and down day. He's from Granite Bay, California. Plans to pay his taxes with his winnings. Well, that doesn't sound like any fun.
No, that does not.
So Ed makes it $175,000 with his Baby Suited Connectors. Action folds now to Ben Sarnoff in the 6th seat.
And Ben announces a re-raise.
Ben is a lawyer from San Francisco, 55 years old. Ben is going to make it $575,000 with pocket 8s. That seems like an aggressive line with middle pair like that.
I agree with you, Fred. I don't like that re-raise by Ben with 8s. I think that's just a hand you flat with. And Neil behind him has woken up with an even bigger hand, jacks, and he only has 13 big blinds. So definitely 4-bet shoving that hand with his stack size is the right thing to do here.
Action now on November 9er, JC Tran.
And JC must have a big hand here if he's even interested, if he's even thinking about calling this 4-bet shove by Neil here. There has been a raise and a re-raise in front of Neil.
Wow. And JC is going to re-raise to isolate here. Makes it 1 million with Ace King.
That's definitely the bottom of JC's 5-betting range here, trying to ISO the short stack.
Maria, me personally, I wake up with Ace King after it's been 4-bet. I'm inclined to fold it, but JC re-raises it here. Is that to get rid of Ben and get heads up?
Absolutely, and I think he's just counting on Ben not having a good enough hand to go all in with, which he didn't.
So we can flip over the card.
And now JC's going to see that he is heads up and flipping, trying to eliminate Neil here.
The flop is 5 Jack 9 with 2 diamonds, and what a great flop for Neil Blumenfield.
And basically he has JC drawing almost dead now. It's not that fun to be flopped almost dead when you were flipping before the flop. The turn is the 5 of hearts, and that is going to seal the double up for Neil here.
Neil Blumenthal started day 2 11th in chips, comes to the final table as one of the short stacks, but that's definitely a chip infusion that he needs.
He's going to more than double up since there was some dead money from the raise and the re-raise in this hand.
And now let's check in with HPT 500. HPT 500 events take place every week across the country, offering players a chance to compete for cash and a sponsorship deal for as little as $75. Topping the leaderboards this week are Ainu Karu at Red Hawk Casino in Northern California. In the Midwest, Barbara Miller is reigning at Lake of the Torches Casino in Wisconsin. At Belterra Casino Resort in Southern Indiana, players will try to unseat Jeff Armstrong. In Colorado, Wildwoods Casino superstar so far is David Matthews. The players at the top of their leaderboard at the end of the season will compete in front of our cameras. Stay tuned right here for updates each week, or take your shot at Poker Glory by visiting hpt500.com to find a location near you. The action will continue at this final table from the Thunder Valley Casino Resort next. With Maria Ho, I'm Fred Bevel. Thanks for coming back to the HPT. We've got a lot of exciting poker yet to be played before we crown a champion. Let's get right back to the action.
Ed Miller is our new chip leader with 3.8 million. Paul is still doing fine though with about 3.5 million. And we've got a couple of short stacks now between Joey, Tony, and JC. They're all looking for a good spot to double up.
Yeah, you can see that 3 of these players under 20 big blinds. Ben Sarnoff, just about 25 big blinds. So half the table left, Maria, looking for a double up opportunity sooner than later, as blinds are 30 and 60,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. Action folds around the table. We're now on the 1 seat of Allen.
By the 1 seat of Allen.
Action now over to the 2 seat of Paul, and he's going to fold. So we're over to Ed. He's in the small blind. He's going to raise it up with Queen 5. Makes it 205,000 to go.
And I always find these blind versus blind spots very interesting because the hand ranges are so wide. It's very hard to put your opponent on a hand.
I tell you something, Maria. If it's folded to me in the small blind, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to raise the big blind with any 2 cards.
You would probably fall into the category of about 95% of the players that I know.
Do you not recommend that? Do you?
No, I think that there's a fair amount of hands that you should be raising from the small blind, but I think it's very opponent dependent. I think there's a lot of merit in limping in against a really good opponent because you kind of want to be able to play some flops.
I guess it matters how you feel against that opponent post-flop.
Make it 525. 525.
But then every now and then you run into a sticky wicket, which is what Ed is about to run into, because Joey has ace-king suited, and he's obviously going to 3-bet this. Makes it over $500,000, 525,000 in chips.
And Joey started this hand with about 16 big blinds, so he's obviously 3-betting to get it in here. And I think he was just trying to think what is a good sizing to keep Ed interested in this pot.
Well, Ed is staging call-in chips, which is a little surprising to me. I like the initial raise because you're just betting into a random hand, but once a player like Joey stands up and re-raises you, I let Queen 5 go to the muck here.
And especially because Joey does only have 16 big blinds, it's kind of a situation where if you get 3-bet, you should either 4-bet all in or fold.
So suddenly a huge pot worth over $1 million in chips has developed between the two blinds here. Here is the flop.
The flop is King 4-7, 2 diamonds.
Go.
Ed bets, and Ed decides to bet into this flop, and Joey obviously quickly goes all in, and Ed has no choice but to call because he's pretty committed, but he's going to see that this was a very, very terrible spot for him to try to take this pot away. Like I said, I think he should have just 4-bet or fold pre-flop. And now he's just going to end up probably doubling up a very dangerous player that's to his left.
Yeah, he's going to need a miracle on the turn and river, which we can see does not come. The turn is the Jack of Spades, which has Ed drawing dead. And Joey is going to get the double up, and you're right, Maria. He's a very dangerous player, very aggressive. He's not the man you want to be giving chips to. But just under $2 million in this pot is going to go his way. And you can see Joey has a rail full of supporters. He is one of the local heroes here at the Thunder Valley Casino Resort Hotel. Very nice guy, a lot of fun to play poker with.
Blinds going up to 40,000, 80,000 with a 10K ante.
And action of this hand will start with professional player and November 9er, JC Tran. JC very excited to have the HPT, as he puts it, in his backyard. JC is going to put his tournament life at risk here with Queen 10 suited.
Queen 10 suited with 8 big blinds under the gun is definitely a shovable hand here.
How much? 665.
This is 665 all in. And JC is 665. Over the 2 seat.
And it looks like he is going to get action from Paul in the 2 seat as he wakes up with pocket 10s. He is going to make the call as he tosses one chip in the middle. And now action folding around. Joey's going to take a look. He's going to pass. Now over to Grant and Ben. None of them are going to play. So Tony, the only one that can make this a 3-way pot.
JC is not going to like it when he sees that Paul has 10s, though, meaning JC only has 1 overcard to that pair.
Kings?
I can speak for everyone left at this final table when they really wouldn't mind seeing JC go. He's by far the most accomplished and decorated player at this table. His reputation precedes him.
The flop is 3-2-5. No help for JC. He's looking for some backdoor spades or a queen.
Yep, running spades or a queen, really the only thing that's going to save JC. There's no hope for a straight.
The turn is the 4 of hearts, and now there are some straight chop outs.
An ace or a 6 would give both player a straight. A queen would give JC the win. Here comes the river.
The river is the Jack of Diamonds, and that's not what JC was looking for, and he's going to be eliminated in 8th place.
As I said a moment ago, JC Tran, one of the most respected pros in the game today and a very well-liked player. He's going to go home just under $20,000 for his efforts this weekend on the Heartland Poker Tour. We thank him for playing. The field started with hundreds. Now we are down to 7 players still battling for the HPT title here from the Thunder Valley Casino Resort. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the HPT, coming to you from the Thunder Valley Casino Resort right here in Sacramento, California. Now, if you're watching this and you want to play an HPT event, do me a favor and check out our webpage. It all happens at hptpoker.com. We have the schedule for all of the entire year there, and who knows, maybe you could sit down and play at our HPT final table. Maria and Fred, we'll send it over to you.
By eliminating JC, Paul Wen reclaims the top spot with $4.3 million. Neil trails behind him with just under $3 million. Tony Wen is our short stack with under $1 million and 11 big blinds.
As blinds continue at 40 and 80,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. Started with 9, we are now 7-handed on our way to our newest HPT champion from the Thunder Valley Casino Resort Hotel.
Raise to 225,000 by then.
Ben gets kings for the 2nd time at this final table, races it up to 225,000.
Action now on Tony in the 8 seat. He's going to fold, and we're now on the 1 seat of Allen.
On the button. And the pool.
Both he and Paul quickly fold. Now over to Ed Miller. Flat cards all around the table right now. Ben hoping to get some action with his Cowboys. Well, I'm kind of surprised to see Ed playing this hand with 10-7.
I don't know if that was a Maria-approved defend hand from the big blind, especially when Ben raises from early position there.
Yeah, just because you have chips invested doesn't mean you have to complete a raise. As my friend Maria has taught me, you have to calculate your winning percentage before you calculate the price. As the flop comes 6-10-7 rainbow, so my goodness.
Sometimes these plays get rewarded, apparently. Top 2 pair for Ed, severely outflopping Ben here. But Ben, of course, who can blame him for c-betting here?
Oh, of course, 10 high flop, rainbow. He's got to feel really good about his kings as he fires 250,000.
And this is the kind of board texture where if I were Ed, I'd probably fast play his 2 pair. I think that there are a lot of turn cards that could come off that could kill his action. And if Ben has a really good hand, like an overpair, for example, then he's probably going to be happy to get it in on the flop.
He is going to fast play as he announces a raise.
700,000.
Yikers, 700,000.
And Ben does quickly go all in and sees that Ed has outflopped him with 2 pair here. Ben's hoping to see a king or a 6 to counterfeit Ed's 2 pair.
You can see on Ben's face, he probably is a little upset that 10-7 is beating him right now. So Ed, a questionable call, to say the least, from the big blind, is about to be rewarded as the 5 of clubs falls on the turn.
That gives Ben a few more outs to counterfeit Ed. If a 6 or a 5 or a king comes on the river, then Ben will survive this hand.
The river card is the Jack of Diamonds, and unfortunately, Ben's pocket kings get outflopped by a raggedy hand from the big blind, and that is going to do it for his tournament life. He'll leave us in 7th place and go to the cage with $23,739.
I guess kings aren't only ace magnets, but 10-7 magnets as well.
Blinds continuing at 40-80 with a 10,000 chip ante as Ed is finished stacking all of Ben's chips. Under the gun, this hand is Neil, and he's going to fold, as does Tony. And now Alan looks at his card as he folds. So now we're over to the button of Paul.
Paul makes it 210,000 with ace-8 from the button.
On.
And it looks like Joey woke up with a hand to move all in here with. He has pocket 4s and 13 big blinds. And Joey has just enough big blinds where if Paul had raised the button here with a hand that's not as good as ace-8, he would get him to fold a lot and he would just pick up the dead money. But I think Paul might find a call here. It's right on the borderline, though. I think a lot of worse aces would fold. But you got to think that sometimes the big blind has king, queen, or king, jack here. So I think ace-8 just might find a call.
Maria, you are absolutely right again. He does find the call with ace-8. He's going to see he is going to the flop behind, but he's flipping. He's got 2 overcards. Joey tried to use the might of his chip stack to just scoop some dead money here, but Paul standing up and making the call.
Huge.
The flop is 6-10 jack, 2 spades. So far the 4s is still good, but in precarious position as Paul still could hit an ace or an 8.
Joey on the rail, hoping the 4s survive through the river.
What are you talking about?
The turn is the deuce of diamonds, still yet another safe card for Joey.
But the river is where dreams are crushed in this game. He's got to fade an ace or an 8 to double up. Otherwise, he will be eliminated.
The river's the queen of spades, and Joey's 4s are going to hold up here, and he will double up.
And the rail rushes to Joey to give him high fives. The floor is going to reconcile these chips and figure out the true double up. You can see it's going to be worth just under 3.3 million in chips, and that is going to make Joey a dangerous player at this final table. Time to take a break from the action here at this exciting final table for one of my favorite segments in the show, A Poker Life, featuring legendary player Doyle Brunson, brought to us by our friends at Ace Play Poker. This week, Doyle tells the story of why cheaters never win. Enjoy.
It was, especially after I got to Vegas. I mean, it was rampart, and you know, I don't really condone those guys that were doing it, because they were in the gambling business. They couldn't win honestly. If I hadn't been able to win, I mean, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, would I have joined out with them? I don't know. I'd like to think not, but again, when people are cheating, they play so bad that I could actually go in those games and beat them, because I knew what they were doing, and so I would, you know, just lay in wait for what they were trying to do, and I'd cross them up. And I know you're going to come to that, but that's when a lot of trouble came over that because I wouldn't do it. I would never join out with them.
Thank you very much, Texas Dolly. And Maria, I know you've known Doyle for several years now. You know, few sports have living legends in them. We're very lucky to have Doyle.
He is such a great storyteller, and I'm so happy that he could be a part of our show. Come back for more tournament action here from Thunder Valley Casino Resort.
Thanks for coming back to the HPT. We are officially shorthanded now as we work our way to a champion. Let's get right back to this final table.
Ed Miller tops the leaderboard with just under $4.5 million.
If you look to the extreme right of your screen, you will see the stack swings that have happened since we last checked in, and they're all 6-digit numbers. That just shows us these guys are not afraid to splash around as blinds are moving up now. They're 50 and 100,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. Allen is under the gun in the 1 seat. He's going to fold. So now we're on the 2 seat of Paul, and you can see he is staging chips. He's going to push forward 385,000 with ace-king offsuit.
Paul has 24 big blinds, so if he faces any further aggression from his opponents, he's definitely going to get it in here.
Tony in the 8 seat peels back 9-10 of clubs. Tony is going to make the call from the big blind. So another big pot brewing.
Flop is Jack 5-5, 2 diamonds.
And Tony is going to take a very aggressive stance and move all in on this flop. And Maria, Paul is snap called already.
You think you play with kid?
Come on, baby. I got to run.
I know that. That's why I'm waiting for you.
Yeah, I don't like this play by Tony here. That's usually a pretty safe flop for most of Paul's raising range pre. And Tony has pretty much no equity, really doesn't even have backdoor flush outs. So I don't know why he just decided to take this overly aggressive route here.
Well, the rail is alive with excitement as a little over 2.6 million is in the middle, and Tony's tournament life is on the line.
Yes, Tony was trying a stop and go here, but like I said, I just don't think that that's a bad flop for a lot of Paul's hands that he's raising there with pre.
Well, his hand has been caught in the cookie jar, and it might cost him his tournament life.
Turn is an 8, and that's actually a really good card for Tony. Now he has an open-ended straight draw plus pair outs. A queen, a 10, a 9, or a 7 is going to double him up here.
Tony hoping to get lucky. Paul hoping he can fade the outs. Oh no, the Queen of Hearts on the river. And the crowd goes wild.
And Tony just runnered himself into a double up. And I'm sure because that was a big chunk of Paul's chips, he's not too happy about that.
Half the rail is happy, the other half not so much. Wow, we are seeing some action at this final table. These guys are not afraid to get it in.
Think of my mind 1 second.
Blind still at 50 and 100. Allen in the 1 seed here has peeled back ace-jack suited. And Allen is going to raise with ace-jack. So now action on Paul after suffering that wicked bad beat. Runner, a hand to go. He's going to move all in with pocket threes.
I think he was feeling a little bit. He had just under 10 big blinds. He might have been able to wait for a little bit of a better spot. I don't really ever advocating jamming small pairs over raises with less than 10 big blinds because you don't have any fold equity. But he is going to be flipping here for his tournament life.
So Maria, while the dealer is cutting out the chips and making sure everything's square, explain fold equity.
All right, the tail of the tape.
Fold equity basically means that when you raise or re-raise, you have enough chips in your stack that your opponent can still comfortably fold without being pot committed to calling you.
Here we go. Let's go ahead and see the flop.
Thank you. School is now out of session as we go to the flop, and wow! Jack, ace, 10, all diamonds. Allen has crushed this flop, but Paul has a lot of outs. He's got a 3 or any diamond.
Paul does pull ahead, turning a flush, but Allen can still knock him out with an ace or a jack on the river to boat up, or they would chop if a diamond higher than the deuce of diamonds comes on the river.
The jack of clubs falls on the river. Oh my goodness.
And that is a whole lot of excitement ending in elimination for Paul Wen, our chip leader coming into this final table.
Wow, what a roller coaster of emotions. He started the hand out behind, then he was ahead, then he was behind. But what matters is where you're at on the river. And Allen is going to eliminate Paul in 6th place. And Paul will be going home with a very nice payday of just under $30,000.
All of these players seem to have their foot on the gas pedal. Let's see if any of them are going to step on the brake anytime soon. Please come back.
Welcome back to the HPT with Maria Ho. I'm Fred Bevel. One of these players is going to go home with over $179,000. Let's find out who it's going to be.
Ed Miller remains our chip leader with over $4 million, but Joey is hot on his heels with over $3.8 million. Both Allen and Tony are fairly comfortable with their 35 big blind stacks, but Neil is the one treading water here with 14 big blinds.
As we continue 5-handed on the road to a championship, blinds continuing at 50 and 100,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. And action in this hand will start with Allen in the 1 seat. He's going to fold. And now it's Joey on the button.
Action folded over to Neil, who is in the small blind.
And Neil's going to raise. He makes it 200,000. And Tony in the big blind is eyeing Neil's stack.
I don't know what they are actually. You don't know?
I think if I were Neil, I'd probably just jam King 9 with 14 big blinds. I think if he had a little bit more, he could raise, fold, even limp. But I think in this situation with 14 bigs, I feel like I just would rather jam and pick up the dead money. However, they are going to see the flop as Tony calls with Jack 8.
The flop is 7 Queen 5 Rainbow. And Neil, the original raiser, is going to not continuation bet.
And I'm not really sure why Tony didn't take that opportunity to bet. He should have taken that as an open invitation to take this pot away from Neil. And this is why I'd prefer to see Neil jam this hand pre-flop instead of just raising, because Neil decides to give up on the continuation bet on the flop when he already invested some of his chips from his already short chip stack.
Well, he passes the opportunity to c-bet on the flop, and now he is going to check call the turn.
And I feel like Neil's just check calling here to try to hit something on the river, which once again, he's just bleeding chips into this pot. However, he decides to take this river as the opportunity to bluff. And although it's $935,000 for Tony to call, the way Neil plays his hand just doesn't really make sense. Looks like he could definitely have a busted flush draw.
Tony does make the call, and Neil flips over the losing hand. He knew as soon as he heard the call, he was done. Tony, a very sticky player. He is not going to fold very easily, and I guess Neil didn't realize that when he raised pre-flop and then checked all the way down and decided to bluff the river. It didn't work out. And he is going to be our 5th place finisher, going home with just under $38,000. Poker's getting more expensive to play now as the blinds move up to 60 and 120,000 with a 15,000 chip ante. Alan again, first to act here. Alan's been fairly quiet at this final table so far. He's only splashed around a few times.
I think there's enough action going around that Alan's just opting to stay out of that.
And he is going to raise it. Makes it 265,000 with pocket 7s. Ed is going to take this hand off, so now we're over to Joey.
Joey only has 21 big blinds, but he's going to opt to make the call with that stack with King 4 of clubs from the small blind. I think I would have liked to see a 3-bet or fold in this situation.
4 deuce is the holding for Tony, and even a sticky player like him knows to let that go. So heads up between Alan and Joey.
The flop is ace queen 8, and neither player really loves this flop, but Alan should definitely c-bet this texture.
It's a check. Over to Alan now.
Joey checks it over to Alan, and Alan is staging the c-betting chips, and they go into the middle, equaling 285,000.
285 on the 1 seat. And all in.
And wow, Joey is going to check raise all in, and that's going to be good enough to get Alan to lay down the best hand. Daring bluffs, hero calls, and bad beats. That's what you can say about this final table so far.
The way the cash game action is here, I'm not at all surprised that this is the way the tournament is playing out. Come back for more from Thunder Valley Casino Resort.
Thanks for coming back to the HPT. We are in the midst of an instant classic here at the Thunder Valley Casino Resort. Let's get right back to the action.
Tony and Ed both have over 4 million. Alan and Joey are in the 3 million chip range. None of these players are really short, and they definitely aren't afraid to put the chips in.
Tony up over 1.6 million since we last checked in. Blinds are remaining at the 60, 120,000 level with a 15,000 chip ante. The antes are now at half of what the starting stack is at the HPT. Every player starts with 30,000 in chips on day 1. 300 big blinds to start out the tournament.
Joey raises with Jack 10 offsuit and makes it 300,000 to go.
Alan looks down at ace 8. In a four-handed game, that's pretty good.
He decides to let it go, which I think is definitely a better alternative than just calling from the small blind with that hand.
Ed is going to make the call with ace 3. It's kind of interesting, the two different styles of the players sitting right next to each other. Alan folds ace 8. Ed, on the other hand, goes ahead and makes the call with ace 3 as the flop comes ace 10 9, so both players get a piece of this.
Ed was ahead with ace high, but now has paired his ace. Joey also paired his 10. And Ed checks it over to Joey, who bets 300,000.
You know, this is the problem with playing weak aces like ace 3. You flop the ace, you're still not totally sure if you're good.
Yeah, you're definitely not quite sure where you're at, and you probably don't want to face 3 streets with a weak ace against a pre-flop raiser.
That makes the call. Turn card, please, when you're ready, Joe.
Ooh, this turn is a great card for Joey. The jack of diamonds gives him 2 pair, and he's going to move all in.
And I think that's a really big overbet there from Joey. He really doesn't need to be betting over pot here. Of course, I'm sure that Ed can't really find the call here. It's just not a good run out so far for his weak ace. I think Joey's going to miss out on value because of his sizing.
Well, Ed did catch Joey a few hands ago by calling him with pocket deuces, and he was good. Now Ed is sitting with top pair and a weak kicker. He might just find the call.
And I think if if Joey's intention on his overbet was to try to get Ed to make a hero call again, then that's actually a really good bet size. But I just don't think that Ed has it in him again when it's representative of a lot of his chip stack.
Ed is going to smartly fold here. It looked like he was close to making the call, but instead it's going to be Joey that's going to scoop a nice size pot here.
Four-handed Allen in the cutoff is also first to act here.
275.
And Allen's going to raise it up, makes it 275,000. Ed is going to fold over to Joey. He's going to fold. Now over to Tony. Looks like 8-9 for Tony in the big blind. We've seen him call hands like this from the big blind when facing a raise. And he is going to make the call.
9-8 suited is playing very well against Allen's hand. The flop is 3 queen ace, 1 diamond. Allen has flopped bottom set. Tony doesn't really have much but backdoor possibilities. Never really seen any of these players just give up very easily on a hand when they don't flop anything, so we'll see what happens here.
Maria, I think Allen's going to have a tough time extracting chips from Tony. He's been by far the tightest player at this table, especially comparatively speaking. Finally here, Allen hits a monster. I just don't think Tony's connected enough.
But I feel like sometimes tightness can be mistook for weakness, and as we've seen, Allen has folded to check raises from players, and Tony's definitely not afraid to try to push people around.
Let's see if Tony tries to take a page out of Joey's book. He is just going to flat call here. Let's see if Tony's going to try to make a move on the turn.
The turn is the 5 of spades, so now Tony definitely didn't hit the running outs he was looking for. He checks it over to Allen.
And Allen again is going to fire, this time 475,000.
And if Tony so much as tries to push Allen around on this turn, Allen, I'm sure, is going to snap call.
Tony again not going anywhere. He's going to raise it up to $1 million.
And Allen doesn't have many chips behind if he calls this check raise, so if I were him, I would just re-raise all in here.
All in.
And that's exactly what he does. And it's another 1.18 million to call, and Tony's going to go ahead and become a believer now and lay the hand down. And what a big pot going Allen's way. Sitting quiet most of this final table. That one's going to award him almost $5 million in chips.
Luckily for Allen, he had something to go all in there, and unluckily for Tony, he wasn't able to get him off his hand.
Well, this final table is shaping up to be one for the books. Maria, what is your take on the play today?
I really wouldn't expect anything less coming to Thunder Valley Casino Resort, because you know these players are ready to gamble. And unfortunately, we lost JC Tran in 8th place. We were hoping to see him do well, especially with all of his experience being a November 9er. But there's definitely still a few good players left in the mix.
There are indeed. And next time, we'll play down to a champion and award life-changing money to one of the 4 players remaining. Now, do you think you have what it takes to sit in an HPT final table and compete for unreal money on a worldwide stage? Well, then put your money where your mouth is. Log on to hptpoker.com and find an event near you. For Maria Ho and James Larson, I'm Fred Bevel. We'll see you next time right here on the HPT. 2005 was a long time ago, and since then we've awarded millions across the country. Here's a few people wishing us happy birthday.
Happy anniversary to 10th anniversary to the HPT, and like to see you guys keep going.
Hi HPT, congratulations with 10 years of what you guys do. I've only been with you for 4 years, but I've had 10 years of fun, that's for sure. Good luck on the next 10.
Congratulations HPT on your 10-year anniversary. And at least for myself to commemorate, I'm going to play my first HPT event right here.